Good morning. Let me add my thanks as well to the organizers of this conference, especially Father Matt and Monsignor Vaccari, and America Magazine and St. Joseph Seminary for providing with this symposium a forum for continuing this very important discussion on the service and ministry of the Catholic media and its current and future challenges. A couple of months before the Second Vatican Council issued Inter Mirifica, its decree on the media of social communications, whose 50th anniversary this conference, a little belatedly, marks, the magazine I represent here today was mailed for the first time under its current title, U.S. Catholic. Founded in 1935 as the Voice of St. Jude, subsequently shortened to St. Jude, the magazine had started as a house organ, both of the then recently established Chicago-based National Shrine of St. Jude and of the Claretian Missionaries. But beginning in the late 1940s, the Claretians, a religious order founded in Spain that has counted publishing among its core charisms, repositioned their national publication as a general interest magazine with a more ambitious mission. As a little side note, Pope Pius XI called the founder of the Claretians, St. Anthony Claret, the, quote, modern apostle of the good press. The change of the name to U.S. Catholic, the editors explained at the time, was intended to reflect the broadened scope and interests of the magazine. While the magazine has continued to evolve over the past 51 years, much of what the editors laid out in their statement of purpose in the inaugural issue of U.S. Catholic continues to guide our ministry today. That statement outlined an editorial policy emphasizing interpretive reporting and explained, quote, "You will not find all the answers in U.S. Catholic, but if you are willing to look, you will find more often than not the stuff of which intelligent and mature judgments are made. We feel that you, our readers, are quite capable of making such judgments, granted the opportunity to examine the world as Catholics encounter it." In fact, the editors were so concerned about not telling their readers what to think that they introduced the quaint custom of printing the occasional expressions of one writer's opinions on a separate, easily recognizable paper stock. In addition, the editors committed themselves to presenting their monthly offerings in a visually attractive design, and they concluded with the following statement, quote, "Our Catholic heritage, and especially our adoption as sons," and let me hasten to add, and daughters, "of Christ in baptism gives us serious responsibilities, but also incredible opportunities. If through the often discouragingly imperfect means of U.S. Catholic we can make our readers more aware of these opportunities, we will have reason for satisfaction, but never, we hope, for complacency." Our current tagline, "Faith in Real Life," is an indication of the emphasis we put on the lived experiences of Catholics today. While we do, of course, follow what goes on in Rome, in the USCCB, and in Washington, our main preoccupation is with how Catholics today try to answer their baptismal call to discipleship and apply their faith to the challenges of life in the 21st century. In our current mission statement, we express our belief that it makes a difference whether you're Catholic and that Catholicism is a spiritual path that makes sense, a way to live a better and richer life. We invite and help our readers to explore the wisdom of our faith tradition and to apply that faith to the challenges of life in the 21st century. We celebrate the vibrancy and diversity of contemporary Catholicism and aim to inspire readers with a positive vision of Catholic faith today. We conduct our mission with respect for our tradition and our readers, a sense of humor, and a firm belief that the Catholic faith, well lived, responds best to our deepest longings and aspirations, end of quote. We adapted this last piece of our mission statement from a phrase Chicago's late Cardinal Joseph Bernardin liked to use. Pope Francis, in his apostolic exhortation, The Joy of the Gospel, uses similar language when he writes, "If we succeed in expressing adequately and with beauty the essential content of the gospel, surely this message will speak to the deepest yearnings of people's hearts. We have a treasure of life and love that penetrates the depths of our hearts, sustaining and ennobling us. Two particular features have been consistently prominent in our mission throughout our more than 50 years as U.S. Catholic Magazine. The first one is our commitment to providing an open, independent, and intelligent forum for the views of ordinary Catholics in the pew. In our sounding board reader surveys, every month we seek out their insights and opinions on a wide range of issues affecting their everyday lives, their Catholic commitments, as well as the larger church and society. Likewise, in our reporting features, we insist on including the voices and perspectives of ordinary Catholics, rather than just asking experts for their opinions. The second consistent prominent feature of U.S. Catholic's mission has been what we call our bridge function. As much as I personally enjoy reading the writings of academics, church professionals, and other experts in journals such as Commonweal, America, and First Things, there's only so much those journals' editors can do to limit the academic jargon and insider church speak that still makes ordinary Catholics tune out or hit the snooze button. To prevent that fate in our pages, one of our veteran editors consistently applies her mom test. Her no-nonsense mom was a well-educated, intelligent Catholic, deeply committed to and interested in her faith and church, but she also never took a theology class and had no patience for highfalutin verbiage. Picturing her, and other editors may have other family members or friends stand in for this test, helps us do the editing necessary for our general interest audience. But because we also feel that many theologians, scripture scholars, and other academic and church experts do have very important insights and contributions that deserve a much wider exposure to ordinary Catholics in the pew, we engage those experts in in-depth but also informal conversations that we then edit into our expert witness interviews. In building that bridge, we shun jargon and purely intellectual debate and seek to make those experts' valuable work accessible to average Catholics. We press scholars on ways average Catholics might apply their insights to the challenge of living faith-filled lives. Let me add one final note to this description of U.S. Catholic's mission. The magazine is part of the larger Claretian publications, and the other principal focus of our publishing ministry is our Hispanic Ministry Resource Center. The Claretian missionaries first came to the United States 112 years ago to minister to Spanish-speaking Catholics in Texas, and Hispanic ministry has been a major emphasis of their work in the United States ever since. Since 1990, we have made it a high priority to provide quality resources for pastoral ministers working with Hispanic communities throughout the country. As you all know, Latinos today comprise 35 to 40% of American Catholics and more than half of Catholics under 25. While we serve that increasingly crucial demographic of the American Catholic Church primarily with our several bilingual publications, we also feel a strong responsibility for U.S. Catholic to pay close attention to the vibrant Latino church and to seek out and reflect the viewpoints of Hispanic Catholics in our reporting features, essays, and interviews. This is certainly an audience that Catholic media in the United States urgently need to figure out how to serve better, ourselves, of course, included. Not so long ago, the front page of the Catholic Journalist, the monthly newspaper of the Catholic Press Association, featured two big headlines. The first one urging us Catholic media professionals to see ourselves as content evangelists, and the second one proclaiming journalism, it's in our nature. One of the questions Father Matt asked us to reflect on in preparation for this discussion was this one: how should the Catholic media navigate the tension between their role as new evangelists and their responsibility as journalists? The tension Father Matt asks about is a real one, and it is one that Catholic journalists probably need to examine more often. Being asked to fulfill the role of some sort of evangelist as part of his or her vocation tends to make a journalist a bit uncomfortable. promoting things, even when it comes to our church or the gospel, seems more appropriately part of the PR and communications world and not part of a critical journalist's job. And newspapers, magazines, and online publications are not and should not try to be Sunday homilies. Truth be told, one important missing piece in Vatican II's Inter Mirifica was an affirmation of the important role of the Catholic media to reflect and report on the whole range of Catholic life and thought, and to hold the Church itself accountable to the values and truths it proclaims. In their commentary on Inter Mirifica, Karl Rahner and Herbert Vorgrimler pointed out that while its Article 5 clearly affirms the people's right to true and complete information and news in society, it is conspicuously silent about any such right to information within the Church. Thankfully, the pastoral instruction Communio et Progressio, which the Vatican issued in 1971, following the explicit direction of Inter Mirifica, does correct that shortcoming. Article 119 states that, quote, individual Catholics have the right to all the information they need to play their active role in the life of the Church, and preceding articles include a recognition of the importance of Catholics' real freedom to speak their minds, which stems from a feeling for the faith and from love. The instruction also adds that such free dialogue within the Church does no injury to her unity and solidarity. It nurtures concord and the meeting of minds by permitting the free play of the variations of public opinion. Particularly given the revelations of the past dozen years regarding clergy sexual abuse and its widespread cover-up by the Catholic Church authorities, I think all of us would have to agree that the Church desperately needed and continues to need journalists, secular and Catholic ones, to hold it accountable. A robust, honest, independent, and professional Catholic journalism is all the more crucial when one considers that young people today are looking for authenticity and are skeptical toward institutions in general and religious institutions in particular. As the white paper, Freedom and Responsibility in the Catholic Press, issued 21 years ago by the Catholic Press Association, notes, quote, a credible Catholic press is in the best interest of our publications, in the best interest of the institutional Church, and in the best interest of the people of God. Since we're talking here about what it means for Catholic journalists to participate in evangelizing, and that means, of course, to participate in proclaiming the gospel, it is worth quoting an America magazine column that one of Father Matt's predecessors, the late Father George Hunt, wrote more than 20 years ago. Quote, it is important to recall, Father Hunt wrote, that in addition to many heartwarming stories of cures and charity, the Gospels also never blink in pointing up the cowardice of Peter, the adolescent ambitions of John and James, the skepticism of Thomas, and especially the corrupt or wrong-headed machinations of those in authority, like Pilate and the Sanhedrin, i.e. those who wield power in secular and religious governments, end of quote. Unfortunately, though, over the past 25 years or so, there has been a noticeable and regrettable shift within the diocesan Catholic press, which is still the largest sector of Catholic publications, away from the standards of professional journalism and toward PR and communications. In many dioceses today, the editor of the diocesan newspaper is also the director of communications. American bishops have increasingly come to see their role as publisher to mean that they should brook no disagreement on any topic and enforce a strict party line. A quarter century ago, the best diocesan newspapers provided a lively forum in which Catholics within the diocese could freely express a broad range of views on the issues of the day. We can only hope that the example Pope Francis has set more recently in encouraging open and honest discussion among Catholics will eventually trickle down to the American diocesan grassroots and revitalize a more robust Catholic journalism there. As the Pope said in an interview earlier this year, quote, fraternal and open discussions discussions help develop theological and pastoral thinking. I do not fear this. On the contrary, I seek it." End of quote. Even though there are some in church leadership who are still fearful of such open discussions and who have bemoaned the alleged confusion the discussion at the recent Synod on the Family created, we think this is a very healthy and hopeful development. The charge Pope Francis gave the Synod to speak boldly with parousia and to listen with humility, we feel offers great advice and direction for the Catholic press as well. I'm not sure if parousia passes the mom test, but we'll give Pope Francis a pass on this one. In recent years, a number of self-appointed guardians of Catholic orthodoxy managed to curtail the discussion of many important topics that American Catholics are debating among themselves. Bishops far too often accommodated the loudest and shrillest voices and decided that it was safer to employ censorship than to incur the wrath of the orthodoxy police. Not to stir up any trouble among my distinguished co-panelists here today, but I found it interesting to note that in a column for the National Catholic Register, one of those self-appointed guardians couldn't help but admonish even Pope Francis for his choice of Jesuit publications for last year's pioneering in-depth interview. Quote, "Popes have many ways to communicate, Father Raymond de Sousa pontificated, that the Holy Father would choose for the English-speaking world the Jesuit magazine America was frankly disconcerting to many. The choice of America struck many as a reward for behavior that had compromised the Church's teaching." I have to admit to being a bit amused by the spectacle of so many of these self-appointed guardians of Catholic orthodoxy, more recently expressing their various discontents with things Pope Francis says or does. It certainly gives new meaning to the phrase, being more Catholic than the Pope, doesn't it? Still, given the well-known events surrounding the departure of Father Tom Rees as America's editor 9 years ago, there was a certain delicious irony to the following sentences appearing in America's Pope Francis interview. Quote, "The dicasteries of the Roman Curia are at the service of the Pope and the bishops. They are instruments of help. In some cases, however, when they are not functioning well, they run the risk of becoming institutions of censorship. It is amazing to see the denunciations for lack of orthodoxy that come to Rome. I think these cases are much better dealt with locally." It is my hope that Pope Francis' refreshingly common sense approach and refocusing of the Church on the joy of the gospel and on serving the poor will also lead to a revitalization of the Catholic media and its invaluable role of honestly and openly reporting lost my place here. Openly reporting on all the challenges and choices, controversies and conflicts Catholics encounter in their church and society, while at the same time inspiring and challenging Catholics to more faithfully and more joyfully answer the call of the gospel in their own private and public lives. Father Matt also asked us panelists to reflect on the challenges and opportunities for Catholic journalists in the United States today. The challenge and opportunity that immediately comes to mind is, of course, the navigation of today's quickly changing publishing world. The changes we are seeing today affect secular as well as religious publications and revolve around threats to the circulation and the revenue of print publications, as well as the new opportunities of the digital and social media world. The challenge of figuring that out is both exciting and a bit frightening at the same time. On the one hand, the new ways that are now available for us to connect with our readers and the wider world are truly mirifica, or wonderful, as the Vatican II decree put it. On the other hand, the business realities of consistently needing to do more while revenue in print media is contracting and not being adequately replaced by new revenue in our digital publishing are not so mirifica and are creating some severe headaches and sleepless nights for most of us Catholic publishers. Just as the wider publishing world is still struggling with this challenge, Catholic publishers are also continuing to make new plans and work on finding new ways to practice and fund our important ministries. In one of his columns last year, Father Matt proposed as the most urgent challenge for the Catholic media, counteracting what he called the sickening toxin of ideological partisanship, and its resulting dualism and conflict, which he sees as a mortal threat to the ecclesiastical discourse, for it reduces the one to the many. In an intriguing decision that attracted some national attention within and beyond the Catholic media world, America has since banned the use of the words liberal, conservative, or moderate when referring to fellow Catholics in a church context. At U.S. Catholic, we haven't followed this lead, but we respect and agree with much of America's rationale for this decision. While many Catholics perhaps too readily identify with the boxes that are labeled with those terms, they are indeed much too small and confining. As John Carr always liked to say at the annual Catholic social ministry gatherings, quote, "The Catholic Church is neither the Democratic Party at prayer nor the religious caucus of the Republican Party. Our primary allegiance is not to a party or ideology or even a country. It is to Jesus Christ and his good news." Does that mean, though, that no Catholic or Christian should ever self-identify or be identified as conservative or liberal, as traditional or progressive or moderate? I guess I'd have to say I'm not convinced. What I would readily agree with is the need for greater respect and charity across the various ideological camps within the Catholic Church. Although some deride this as soft identity mushiness, in the pages of U.S. Catholic, we do strive for a multitude of voices and for civility and respect for different Catholic points of view. In that respect as well, Pope Francis' new tone and greater willingness to listen to and to engage in dialogue, a greater diversity of both Catholic and non-Catholic voices, have set a good example for Catholic media to follow. I've already mentioned the need for Catholic media to serve the Latino Catholic community much better than we currently do. Let me just add one more final challenge and opportunity that is crucial for the future of Catholic media, and that is for us to find more and better ways to engage a younger audience. This is certainly an area where both the Catholic Church in the United States overall and Catholic media in particular still have a lot of work to do. Reining in ideological partisanship is probably part of the answer, but even more importantly, we do need to get much better at listening to young people themselves and providing them with forums where they can discern and explore meaning and God's call for their lives, where they themselves can reflect on what they search for in their relationships and commitments, and where they can discover for themselves how the gospel responds to their own deepest longings and aspirations. Thank you.